Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at the firm. Today's review, we're going to be looking at some AI terms. So this particular organization, there was something that I used to do in 2025 when I was doing these reviews. I would take a look at the services. The reason why I'm not really doing that for these AI terms of service and AI terms of use reviews is because the privacy principles that underpin almost every single organization translate from company to company. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that the relationship between being transparent, not retaining data indefinitely, these foundational privacy concepts, they transcend every single organization. So it's easy to do the reviews of terms because there's very specific foundational principles that we're looking for in every single terms, in every single privacy notice, and in every single cookie notice. So the really valuable thing, especially for this organization, is they have an AI terms of service. They have a date in which this was last updated, which was last year. They've also identified who the contractual organization is. I've talked a lot about this. Sometimes organizations forget to put the name of the entity that is responsible contractually. Why is that valuable? From a privacy perspective, it's valuable to put the name of the legal entity so that if any consumers or individuals associated with a service have questions about the organization's privacy practices, they know who to contact. Now, some businesses have a colloquial name that they go by. Maybe they go by the name of their product. I think it's very valuable in contractual documents, especially when you're expecting acceptance of certain terms, to identify what the legal entity name is in the event that a consumer has questions about your privacy practices, right? And although these terms are related to AI-powered services, I've talked in several reviews about the fact that artificial intelligence and privacy are different concepts but work in tandem, because generally every single AI service is going to process personal data in some capacity. I feel confident in saying that because just being able to access the artificial intelligence requires at a minimum a username and password. I am yet to see a tool that does not require authentication by a specific user in order to access the service. If a service is going to obtain the username and password of a user, that service is processing personal data, because we know the definition of processing is any operation or set of operations on personal data. And that's irrespective of any input or output that is facilitated by the artificial intelligence tool. Let's keep going. These are the scope of services: analysis of emotional tone and sentiment in communications, AI-generated summaries and transcriptions of audio communications. Now, again, I had mentioned before the fact that there is generally personal data in scope associated with the use of AI, which is why it's valuable to have privacy counsel review the terms that you're signing up for as an organization. I've highlighted the word audio communications because let's talk about this from a US perspective. Communications in the United States, there is a lot of federal privacy legislation that dictates how communications can be conducted when it comes to an individual's personal data. And I've highlighted the word audio because I think it's really important for organizations to understand what can constitute personal data, right? If you're watching this video, there's a couple things I want us to look at. The fact that I identified who I was. I said my name was Funmi Owolabi. I also identified the fact that I own the firm, the Data Privacy Lawyer, right? In addition to that, you're able to hear my voice. Those three pieces of information together constitute personal data. And if you're able to listen to this on YouTube, that can constitute an audio communication. I'm communicating to you via audio because you can hear my voice, but you cannot see me. So why I've highlighted this is because this particular service provides an AI-generated summary based on transcription of an audio communication. So this explains to me, and I don't understand fully how this service works, but I know at least that there is going to be a transcription of an audio communication. Let's say, for example, you're able to look at the subtitles associated with my video. You're able to download the YouTube video, put it into an AI service, and then they're able to provide a transcription of all the words that I've said. That is requiring this service to process personal data, right? And that has to be accounted for because there are laws around how personal data can be utilized. So I hope that makes sense. And I think that I'm going to try and really break down the concept so that companies can understand what it is that a privacy lawyer can do, the value that can be added, and why it's important, not just from a legal perspective, but also from a risk perspective, because when you do business, you're always looking at what is the risk associated with this action. Now, you might not have been able to capture that from this sentence, but I'm looking at this from a privacy lens, and I can see here that the service at a minimum is allowing you to upload audio communications and provide a transcription. Now, the workings of how this product works, that again, we look at things like privacy by design. That's not something that a customer is going to be privy to, but from a privacy perspective, something that I would do as a counsel is I would be looking at the product to make sure that we've implemented privacy by design prior to the creation of this service, right? Taking into consideration the obligations that a supplier like this organization might have, and then the obligations that might be placed on a customer. Now, something that is being distributed, and hopefully I can start to find some of these on this channel, is I think it's valuable to look at something that's distributed to customers called a frequently asked questions. A lot of customers do have questions about how an AI tool works. Now, there's a term in the artificial intelligence space called explainability, and basically it's a concept that, in frank terms, allows individuals to understand what the algorithm associated with an artificial intelligence tool, explaining how the algorithm works in order to provide an output, because the output here is a summary and transcription, right? The input would be this audio communications as far as what I can read. Now, I don't know if this is up to date. I can only go off of what is provided publicly, but I can make opinions based on those privacy foundational concepts that we look at. And so you can also see here, this video is not going to allow me to go through the entire thing. If you like this type of content and you want me to do a full review, now I will say that a full review would take a much longer period of time. And I try and break this down into bite-sized concepts. I try and make these videos not longer than 10 minutes, but we can already see processing of data is already addressed in these terms. Now, you might be wondering, why would a privacy lawyer look at AI terms of service? This is artificial intelligence. Because as we can see, just based off of this one sentence, how much review and knowledge goes into understanding what this part of the service constitutes. And then we've also got the provision associated with processing of data. So it would be insufficient for a privacy counsel to only review the privacy statement associated with these terms without being able to read them in tandem with the AI terms of service, because it's impossible to do business without personal data in 2026. So I really hope you enjoyed this particular review. If you have any comments or questions, leave a comment below and I'll see you in another one.